Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's session. My name is Ian Doherty, and I am CMI's Head of Member Engagement. And I've been working very closely with your colleague, Linda McGregor, to look how we can bring CMI's benefits and resources to life for you so that you can actually see how you can use them to benefit your roles as Associate Directors within Waterman Aspen. Now, my colleague Mel in the background, who's running the event side of things in the back, is going to be driving some of the slides today. So Mel, if I can just ask you to bring up the slides for me. Thank you very much. And we're just going to go through roughly what we're going to cover over the next 30 minutes, 40 minutes, depending on how many questions that we have coming through. So I have it on good authority that the majority of you will be aware of who CMI are and that you are already members of the organisation. But I'm just going to give you a very quick whistle-stop tour, just for a refresh and a recap for any of you who aren't familiar with who CMI is. Then we'll move on to actually see how you can access your CMI member benefits and resources. So what we tend to find is with a lot of people that are members of CMI, they know they're members, but they don't necessarily know how to access everything they've got access to as part of their membership. So we'll talk you through those areas. And then we're going to do a little bit more of a depth dive into the resources that will really benefit you as Associate Directors within the organisation, particularly looking at our learning resources platforms, which are called Management Direct and the Careers Development Centre. We're then going to have a very brief overview of Chartered Manager status. Now, I know some of you may have already gone through this as part of the partnership that we have with Waterman Aspen, and some of you may have not. And the good news is that as Associate Directors, you can all go through this process if you wish, and we'll talk through what it is, how it will benefit you, and how you can go about doing that later on. And we have a special guest later on towards the end. Bradley Joseph will be joining us to talk about his experiences of going through the Chartered Manager process, so you can hear it from an internal colleague's perspective. And then we'll finish the session with a question and answer session. Now, if you do have any questions that you would like to ask throughout the session, please do pop them in the chat in the YouTube channel, and Mel in the background will pick those up and go through those and forward them through to me so we can answer as many as we can at the end of today's session. Please do get involved, be as interactive as you can be, put as many questions through as you can, and I'll happily go through them towards the end. Brilliant, so that's what we're going to cover. So without further ado, let's kick off. So for those of you who want a little bit more information about CMI and what we do, in terms of a strap line, what we do is we turn accidental managers into conscious leaders. And we do that in a variety of methods. And perhaps the most important one is the first one, which is the lifelong learning element. And this is what you as members of CMI have access to through all of our various learning resources that you'll be able to see and we'll go through very shortly. And this can be anything from webinars, it can be online learning resources, it can be articles that we publish, and we've also got some longer reads and some more interactive assessment tools for you as well to help you identify where you are, where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are in relation to management and leadership. We also facilitate this through formal qualifications. So if that is your thing, I know a lot of people that interact with CMI do some kind of qualification with us. So we provide qualifications all the way from level 3 entry qualifications all the way through to level 8 postgraduates and beyond. So formal qualifications are your thing and you'd like to find out more about that, we can share some more information with you. Our unique selling point as CMI is our Chartered Manager Award. And I know a lot of you will be perhaps chartered already with the Chartered Institute of Engineers. So it's a very similar kind of accreditation process in terms of that high level of credibility that sets you apart from other people in the profession, in our case, management and leadership. We also do a lot of work around insights and research. So as a member of CMI, if you haven't seen already, you will start to see you being sent requests to complete various surveys and polls that we do to really get the flavour for what's happening on the ground in terms of management and leadership. And a lot of the work that CMI does is shaped by those responses that you give us. So we don't just sit in an ivory tower and say you must do X, Y, and Z. It's very collaborative. We work with our members, we work with our partners to get the best knowledge and insights that's out there to help shape the work that we do. What we found is one of the main reasons people join CMI and other professional bodies is around community and networks. And later this year, we've got a really exciting new online community platform being launched, which you'll all have access to, which will allow you to get in touch with all other CMI members. So you can build your professional networks, you can ask for advice, you can share concerns and talk about topics that are of interest to you. So two of the ones that we're up and running and established already is one called CMI Women, which focuses on championing women in the workplace. And we also have CMI Race, which is obviously focusing on equality and diversity in relation to race. So there are two that we've already started and more will come down the line with the launch of our new platforms. And then the final piece, which is a particular interest to senior leaders around, is our thought leadership work. So this is the work we do in terms of lobbying around government and getting the insights from the real game changers in the business around what does the future of management and leadership look like. So we put out a lot of information on that as well, and as members of CMI you'll be included in that and you'll get to see all of those fantastic things coming through. And our partnership with Waterman Aspen, in essence, Waterman Aspen are investing in you as managers and leaders to help you become the best manager and leader that you can be. A lot of organisations sort of neglect the training around management and leadership, and I know myself, I went into the forays of management. I used to work in the leisure sector. I was a lifeguard, and one day I got given the keys to the building and said, "You're in charge." And that was my introduction to management. So I was an accidental manager myself. So by working with CMI, we help educate, we help train to make people more aware of the principles around management and leadership and how it can really help organisations and individuals by getting it right. So in essence, that's who we are and what our partnership means between Waterman Aspen and CMI. So we're going to move on now, where we're having a little bit of an in-depth in our member resources. Mel, if you can flip over to my screen share, please, that'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. There we go. The joys of a live show, a few technical glitch there. So I'm going to show you now a few of the resources that you have access to and how you actually get into them. So if you go to the main CMI website, and in the top right-hand corner, there's a picture of a little person. And if you log in there, as you're already registered with CMI, you can either sign in with your email address, or if you have a Google account, it's kind of like a single sign-on process. And all you literally do is you sign in, and once you're in, you can see everything that you've got access to. It's that simple, it's that straightforward. There's no passwords required, it's all passwordless sign-on, and it's all validated through your email account. So really easy to get access to. And as an overarching kind of whistle-stop tour for you in terms of what you can access from this screen, you can update details in terms of your personal profile. So if you want to provide us with more information about who you are and what you do, you can populate that. And that will allow us to provide a more tailored experience for you if we know a little bit more about your level of seniority, for example, and what you do for the organisation. If you want to get into our learning resource portal, Management Direct, this is your top right button, the blue one up here. And we'll be exploring that in a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes. You also have access to our Careers Development Centre, and the Careers Development Centre is a fantastic resource which is more focused around the behavioural parts of management, so it's more on the soft skills, whereas Management Direct is more around the technical aspects of management. So those are the two kind of main resources that we'll be focusing on today, and me personally, I get most value out of those as a manager and leader within CMI. You can also access from this area your CPD record. Again, we'll have a look at that a little bit later. So if you're required to produce a CPD report for your HR team, for example, or just for your own records, all of the learning that you do within the CMI environment is collated in that environment, and you can download it as an Excel document, as a CSV, and upload it to various systems and platforms that you may have internally within your organisation, or just for your own records. And the final areas on here that you've got access to are our mentoring service. We're not going to go into any great detail in this today, but as a CMI member, you have access to either become a mentor or a mentee if you're seeking some guidance in a particular topic, whether it's career advancement or something around project management. We have an introduction service which will allow you to connect with people that can help you in those particular environments. And that is one of our most popular resources, because if you're anything like me, I don't really learn from reading things anymore. I much prefer learning from people. So the mentoring service is available to you all as members of CMI. And then the final area that you'll have, you don't need to worry about renewing your membership. So that's all sorted with the corporate partnership we have. The final area that we've recently introduced as a new benefit are our COOTH services, which is an online mental health and wellbeing resource. So you can access these by clicking on the buttons on the right. The one for you guys will be the Quell system, which is in essence the version of the platform for adults and practicing managers. There's a version aimed at the younger market, so the 18 to 21-year-olds for the students that we have on board with CMI. So you can go in there and basically there's all sorts of resources that you can access around mental health and wellbeing. There's counselling services available through there. So if you want to have a conversation with somebody, it's monitored 24/7 by a team of trained counsellors. And if you need to tap into that at any point, you're more than welcome to as a member of CMI. And then the final thing just on this first screen before we do the depth dive into our content, we've recently launched something called Management Tribes. And when you log in, you get 6 options. I won't go through these in any great detail now. But in essence, what you do is you pick the one that sounds most like you at this moment in time. And what that essentially does for us is it tells us what your interests are, what your motivations are, and how we can help you more as an individual. And what we do is once you've selected a tribe, we send you more personalized content in our newsletters, so articles that may be of interest to you in that particular audience, rather than just the generic information that we send out. It's all about personalizing that level of service. You can update your tribe as frequently as you like. So if your career is the most important thing to you ever in the world at this particular moment in time, you can click on that option. And in 6 months' time, if something changes, you can change it to another option that reflects where you are in your career at the moment. So by keeping that up to date, you help us to tailor the information that we share with you. So that's how you access all of the resources. So everything I'm going to show you now is accessible from this area. We're going to start off by having a look within the Management Direct platform. So if you click on the Management Direct button, it will take you into the Management Direct learning platform. And from here, there are thousands of resources that you can access. I'm not going to go through them all because we'll be here forever, but I'm just going to point out some of the highlights. And what I will do for you at the end of today's session, I'll be sending up a follow-up communications to everybody via email, where I've curated a list of activities for you that you would find useful based on the conversations I've been having with Linda around your role. So for example, there's going to be some information in there around managing remote teams. There's going to be some project management information, skills around influencing, relationship building with senior management, so that managing upwards relationship, delegation, one we all struggle with, time management, and also things around managing yourself. So they're kind of the main themes that we've teased out for you as a particular audience. And I'll send you some direct links to the resources within Management Direct, so it's a good starting point for you. Now, when you come into Management Direct, a few areas that I will show you. If you go to the Browse by Content Type section here, Management Direct has loads of resources that are split into different types. So depending on your learning style and your preference of how you like to learn and absorb content, you can go straight in and you can pick the method that is most important to you. And you'll see all of the different lists of content that are within there. My personal favorite are the checklists at the top here. My advice for you is if you look at nothing else within Management Direct, go into the checklists. And we'll have a look at a couple of those a little bit later on during this session, because they are very practical guidelines that you can take to if you're about to enter a difficult conversation, for example, and you're really worried about it because you're not sure how it's going to go. There's a practical checklist you can go down to help you to prepare for that. And I've used these several times to help me prepare for different situations and scenarios throughout my time here at CMI. So they are super useful. There's also things like templates, so downloadable Word documents for things like business planning and financial management and RAG rating and risk assessments. You name it, there's a template for absolutely everything within there. So if you're looking to do a particular task and you're not really sure where to start, then go in the CMI templates. There's some great resources in there for you. And then other things that you can see just as I'm scrolling down. So for those of you that like longer reads. There are ebooks available which go into a lot of theoretical detail around certain areas, if that's your thing. But if you prefer to watch some short videos, we have videos from various leaders in various sectors and leaders in their field that you can look at, and also some things like theoretical models. Those of you that be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy and those types of things, if that floats your boat, you can go into the models area. And finally, the webinar box at the bottom. So all of the webinars we do around CPD, they are recorded and they are accessible from there. So some of the resources that I will be forwarding you after today's session will be webinars that you can rewatch. And there's a really good one on managing upwards, which I'll forward across to you. But you can absorb the content in your own time whenever you like by looking in this area for content. Other areas that I'll point out in here for you that will be of use. On the front page here, you've got this What's New section in Management Direct. So one of the things that we regularly do at CMI is update our resources. So they're not just stuck in time and you're referring back to information from the 1940s. We're regularly adding content to this. So this is one of my favorite areas in terms of you can see all the latest bits that are coming out. So if I go into the latest insights, for example, it comes up with all of the latest topics. So these are the things that we know managers are asking about and struggling with and wanting guidance on at this particular moment in time. And a lot of these are really quick reads. It takes you 5 minutes, 10 minutes to read through one of these articles, and you can really apply them to your learning. So there's some really good ones in here. And the majority of these are actually written by our members as well, based on their experiences. So it's really good to go in there and see what's new. And as you can see there, we've got 18 insights and 17 videos that we've uploaded within the last couple of weeks. So there's a lot of new content always coming out. So I'll just go back to the home screen. The other area that I'll just point out on here are our COVID-19 resources. So over the pandemic, there's been a lot of themes around management and leadership, particularly around remote working and well-being that have come out of the research that we've been doing. And all of the content that we've pieced together within Management Direct that cover these topic areas, you can find directly from here. So you don't need to go searching. They're all in one place. So you can have a look down. I'll just open this models one here. There's a really good one, Murphy's 10 Laws of Time Management. I find that really funny to read. It's a really good read. And it really helps you with your time management and your prioritization, which I know a lot of people have struggled with during the pandemic. So if you're looking for the most recent content and the most relevant thematic content, they're your two areas. It's the what's new and the leading in the COVID-19 crisis. And so they're regularly updated. So visit back as many times as you can on a weekly basis to see what's new in your area. Okay, so the only other area that I'm really going to point out in Management Direct for you in terms of the initial landing page area is the search function. So if you've got a particular need for a certain piece of learning, so I'm going to pick on project management because that's one of the areas that's been highlighted that may benefit you guys on the call today. So you can just do a quick search and it will bring up all of the resources that relate to that particular topic. And as you can see here, there's quite a few different learning styles for project management. And I said earlier I'd show you one of the checklists. So I'm going to go into one of the checklists here. And you can see the different ones that are coming up. So in relation to project management, we've got a generic one around managing projects. There's ones around participating, feasibility studies, risk assessments, and risk management. And you can literally open one of these up and you can get a brief introduction to the topic. There's a definition of what it is. Project management is quite a straightforward one, but some of the more technical terms of management can be quite confusing sometimes. And then, as I mentioned, you've got your action checklist. So in terms of managing a project, there's an 11-point plan, which you can go down if you're put in charge of a project or even participating in one, and you can see the best practice of the things that you should be doing in order to make that project effective. So you can literally go down this and tick it off as you're going through. It's a really practical resource. There's then a section on potential pitfalls, so things that normally trip people up, so you know what to look out to avoid. And then right at the bottom, you've got your additional resources. So a whole range of other resources contained within the Management Direct environment where you can go on for further reading and further topics. So there's other templates here around project management checklists and initiation plans, and you name it, it's in there. So they're really good resources to tap into and start to utilize. You've also got your more academic resources around books and journals and longer reads if you're interested in that type of thing. But you've also got your really practical resources that you can apply on a day-to-day basis. So that's a tour of Management Direct in terms of how you access the most relevant content for you. There's lots of other menu options in there which you can please feel free to explore in your own time. But what I've highlighted in this session just now are the most important parts and where I feel you'll get the most benefit from using those. The other areas just in Management Direct that I just want to touch on very briefly is under the Learning Resources section. We have something called Learning Journeys. And all a learning journey is, in essence, is a compilation. It's like a playlist of content within Management Direct. So where I've just shown you checklists and articles, we've curated a list of different activities that relate to a specific theme. So if you'd like to do a bit more of an extended piece of learning in project management or change management or whatever it may be, rather than you having to search yourself and put that content together, we've done it for you. And when you come onto this area of the system, you'll notice there's a few options here. A lot of the content is geared around the apprenticeship programs that CMI runs. You can still access these even though you're not apprentices on a CMI apprenticeship program. So if I just go into one of these, for example, you can see the themes that are coming up. So we have things around operational management, project management, finance, for those of you that need to get your heads around that, leading people, managing people. And if I just open one of these up, so if I open the finance one, as you can see down the left-hand side here, it's broken down into really sizable chunks that tells you how long each section is going to take. So you can dip in and out of these and complete the learning in your own time as and when you need it. So if you prefer a more structured approach to your learning, learning journeys are for you. If you don't and you just like to dabble in and out every now and again when you need it, then use the previous functions that I've just shared with you as part of that. And then the final area within Management Direct, before we move on to one of our other platforms, is the CPD recording, which is contained within this platform. So this is accessible from the My Learning area over here. And from the My Learning area, you can go into your continuing professional development record, which looks something like this. And what it basically does for you, it's really clever. So any resource that you access within Management Direct is automatically pulled through onto this list. And if you want to add it to your CPD record, you can either tick the ones that you would like to add, or you can add them all if you want to add them all. So it's a nice, easy way of putting them through. When you add them, there is an opportunity, and I would recommend that you do this, to reflect on the exercise. So it's all well and good reading something, but then it's good to reflect to see how you're actually applying that to your workplace so you can get the most out of the resource that you've just used. And you can add that to your list. And then from here as well, at the top, you've got some options. So you can, if you wish, add other activity that's not contained within the Management Direct platform. So if you want to use this as your kind of CPD repository for recording other information, whether it's from your engineering profession or just anything else that you attend, you have the opportunity to add that in. You can also set yourselves objectives within the system as well. So if you wanted to say, I'm going to complete this by this date, could be you're going to complete the Chartered Manager status by July the 3rd. You can put that in and you'll get reminders from the system to help keep you on track of your objectives. And then at the top as well, you've got the report section. So it brings up a very small date filter. So you can filter between certain dates and you have the opportunity to then export that information. As I said, into a CSV or an Excel document. I think you can download it as a PDF as well. So if you want to provide that evidence to your line manager as part of a PDR review, or your HR department require it, then you can do that as well. So it's quite intuitive. The CPD system is going through a massive upgrade this year. You see it looks a little bit basic at the moment, but we're updating that, but it's very functional at the moment and it does what it needs to do. So you've got access to that as well as part of your membership. So that in a nutshell is the Management Direct platform. The other resource that I just wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive into today was what we call the Career Development Centre. And this again is another learning resource platform that you can access. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it's more around the softer skills of management and self-awareness. This is more about your own personal kind of attributes as a manager and a leader. And I believe Mel's very kindly, yes, she has, she's put in some links to this in the chats for you so you can get up to date and find the links directly. And again, there are hundreds of resources within here. I'm not going to go through them all today, but in terms of basic navigation, at the top, you've got your menu bar where you can look at various learning resources and various career development resources. I'm just going to show you two within here today, and these are my favorites around career assessments. So this basically gives you a health check in terms of how you're performing in various areas of your management and leadership career. And as you can see, it's split down into several different areas around personalities, workplace culture, resilience, emotional control, the list goes on. And what you can do is you basically go into these, and there is a short assessment on the I agree with this is like me, this is not like me, those types of statements, which we've all done previously in the past. And when you complete that, what it does for you, it gives you a report that is bespoke to you as an individual. You can print it, you can download it, again, if you need it for any HR records. And it tells you how you're performing in these particular areas. So I'm happy to share this one with you. This is my own personal resilience result that I did a while back now. And you can see very quickly which areas you're doing well in and which areas you're not doing so well in. So this immediately tells me that support networks I have around me may need some attention. And overall, I'm a relatively resilient individual, which is great self-confidence boost for me. And as you scroll down here, it gives you tips to help improve and what you may need to do in the various areas. So again, it's bespoke to you as an individual, it's not generic, and it can really help you drill down to any areas that you may worry about. And one of the main ones that when we speak to managers, leaders, is around the self-confidence. So if you've ever suffered from imposter syndrome, in terms of you doing a job, but you sometimes think, can I actually do this? Am I right? Do I know what I'm doing? Of course you know what you're doing, you just don't have that self-belief in yourself in order to facilitate that. So self-confidence is a really good one to bolster your knowledge and understanding of that's in there. So that's the assessments. You've got the career assessments, which are focused on those areas which I've just shown you. And we also have a very similar one around career well-being. Now, this isn't necessarily well-being as in terms of mental health. This is more around a career checkup in terms of how you're doing around relationship building, emotional intelligence, resilience, etc., etc. So it's similar to the previous one, but it's a little bit more detailed in terms of there's a number of exercises that you can access to help you complete those activities. And some of them are quick reads, some of them are videos, some of them are interactive. And again, it just depends on your learning style. So the Career Development Centre is one of the most underutilised resources by CMI members, but for me, it's better than Management Direct. And my advice to you would be, if you use nothing else of your CMI resources, use the CMI checklists from Management Direct and use these assessments within the Career Development Centre. They are absolutely fantastic. There's also a lot of resources within here around your career itself. So if you are angling for a promotion at work, or you're looking to, not that you'd ever want to leave Waterman Aspen, but if you're looking for that next step in your career, there's all sorts of resources in here that help you with CV building. There's an interactive interview simulator, which gives you feedback using AI. So it tells you, are you looking at the camera? Are you coming across angry or relaxed or whatever it may be? And again, you can use that for various things. If you're about to go into a high pressure meeting and you want to practice, you can do that within there as well. So there are an awful lot of resources here that are really useful for you guys to use. And please, please, please do take the time to go in and have a look around those areas. And then the last thing I'll just point out within the Career Development Centre are the learning resources. So very similar to Management Direct in terms of short snippets and bites of learning. Again, there's a search functionality at the top, and there's all sorts of different menu options that you can go into. If you wanted to find out more about evolving as a leader, for example, there's various bits, and the resources within the Career Development Centre, they're a lot more interactive. So if you prefer to interact with learning resources rather than just reading, then the Career Development Centre is the place for you. So I hope that was useful in terms of the orientation tour of the two platforms. And as I said, at the end of today's session, I will send you a curated list of content from Management Direct and from the Career Development Centre that you can get access to directly to help you with those areas that we identified earlier that may be challenging for you as associate directors. So Mel, if we can switch back to our lovely slides, please. Thank you very much. So to round up today's session before we go into the question and answer, and I can see we've had one question through, thank you very much. And I've had a couple pre-submitted. So if you've got any more, do put them in to the chat, even if you just want to say hello. It's always lovely to hear from people. I'm just going to briefly talk to you about Chartered Manager and what that is, because I know some of you have already been through the process, which is fantastic, but I know some of you haven't as well. So As CMI, we are the only chartered institute in the UK that can award chartered manager status. And for those of you that have been through charterships, maybe with the Institute of Engineering, you'll know that it's that professional recognition. And in our case, it's around the management and leadership ability. The assessment process for management and leadership, it's not technical, where some professions may be. It's more around self-reflection on looking back at your time in management and leadership and showcasing your impact as a manager and leader. So what have you done that's improved how people work within your organization, or how processes have improved? So it doesn't have to be all around people management, it can be around process management as well for those people that don't necessarily have large teams of people to manage. And the few kind of stats that you'll see on screen there, this is the main feedback that we get from our people that go through Chartered Manager Awards. So we've roughly got around 12,000 people that have been through the process now. And you can see from the stats on screen that people report an increase in self-awareness. So by doing that reflection activity, they actually realise what a good manager and leader they actually are. I know sometimes if you're asked, what have you achieved in the last 6 months? It's often quite difficult to think about that, but when you actually put the time through the chartered manager process, it really comes out and you think, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I'm really good at what I do. So it's a great booster for self-awareness. And moving on to the self-confidence piece as well. So getting over that imposter syndrome, as I mentioned earlier. Also, in terms of improving management skills themselves, so around 81% of people that go through the process say that their skills as a manager and leader actually improve as a result. So they learn things about what they've done, areas for improvement, and how they can move forwards. And 76% tell us that it gives them that competitive edge. So again, if people are looking for promotion, if people are looking to climb the career ladder, it sets them one step above of those people that haven't achieved chartered status. And just as a little nugget of information, our research also shows that by becoming a chartered manager, on average, they earn around £13,000 a year more than their non-chartered colleagues. Now, you cannot say, Ian said that if I get chartered, I'll get £13,000 pay rise. I did not say that. I'll deny our own culpability. But that's what the research shows in terms of the average amount that our chartered managers are paid more than their non-chartered counterparts. So food for thought there as we move forwards. Brilliant. So Mel, if you can just whiz on to the next one, please. Thank you very much. So as an overview in terms of what's required and how you get this. So it's all about a mixture of experience and or qualifications. And there's a number of ways that you can go through this. So if you do hold one of our qualifications, one of the CMI ones at level 5 or higher, as long as you've got 3 years management experience, there's a fast track route because we know the content of the qualification that you've done and we know where the gaps are in terms of the knowledge and what we need to assess around that. That's very quick, very easy. It can normally be completed within a couple of weeks. But if you don't hold a CMI qualification and you're looking to go forward, there's 2 options available. So you may have a degree or higher level qualification. Doesn't necessarily have to be directly in management, but we like to see it's got a bit of a management flavour to it. It's part of one of the modules within there. And you've got 3 years experience. You can come through our assessment route, which I'll share with you in a second. And we don't discriminate. So if you haven't got a qualification, because we know a lot of managers and leaders haven't, they've learned it all through experience, that's fine also. We just ask that you have that little bit more experience so you've been able to apply what you do for a little bit longer, up to 5 years experience through that route. And the great news is that as associate directors, you can put yourself forward for the Chartered Manager Award. It does need sign off from a more senior level, and I hope I'm not landing Ben in the hot water with this one. I believe Ben's going to be taking over looking after this process for you guys from Linda. But Ben, if that information hasn't circulated down to you yet, I do apologise, and please speak to Linda in the meantime. But from what I've been told, Ben will be the man that's going to lead you way forwards with this. So if you haven't been through the process yet, you want to find out more and you want to do it, and please speak to Ben within Waterman Aspen, who he'll be able to help you. Okay, and the last one for me before we wrap up with speaking to Bradley, just in terms of the assessment process itself, if you do go forward to a chartered manager, there's 2 options that are available to you. If you're a writer and you enjoy writing about your experiences, we have a written route. And in essence, there are 6 areas which both assessment routes cover. One around is looking at your achievements, what you've achieved as a manager. One's around leading people and how you've improved people's lives. One's around managing change. One's a reflective exercise, so looking at what lessons you've learned from being a manager and leader. And then the final area is all around continual professional development and the future of where you're heading within the next 12 months. And if you're doing the written option, you have to provide written evidence of those areas, all demonstrating your impact. That then gets sent in to us for review, and you have a very brief, up to an hour conversation with one of our assessors, who will just probe a little bit more into some of the areas within your written submission, just to make sure that you do know what you're talking about, and somebody else hasn't written it for you, just as that quality assurance result. And then, dependent on the outcome of the interview, the chartered manager status is awarded. And roughly on average, it takes up to 12 weeks to complete that process. We do have people that go through it in 2 to 3 weeks. We do have people that it takes over a year to do it. So it all comes down to your commitment and your effort that you want to put into it in terms of how fast you want to achieve it. We will move at your pace. So if you want to get it done quickly, we can facilitate that. If you want to take a bit longer, we can facilitate that also. And the second option, which is incredibly popular, my preferred route, is what we call professional discussion. So for this, you don't have to do lengthy written exercises. So you have to answer the same 6 questions. And basically, you just put a few bullet points under each heading, and then you have a series of interviews with one of our coaches and assessors that will tease the information out of you that they need for the assessment process, and they'll write it up for you. So it's nice and straightforward. And the only change there is that you have anywhere between 1 and 4 sessions, particularly with the assessor. Some people need more, just to get the information that's needed, and then we confirm the result to you. So again, on average, it's about a 12-week process, but it can be done quicker if you want to. So that's an overview of the assessment process for you. And now, drumroll, I'd like to bring in your wonderful colleague, Bradley Joseph, who, for those of you who don't know Bradley, is the Associate Director for London North. And Bradley was actually one of the first Waterman Aspen colleagues, if not the first, to go through the Chartered Manager process. So we thought we'd ask him just to come along and share a few experiences. So welcome, Bradley. Good to see you.
Oh, thank you, Ian. Yes, good to be here. I can't see exactly who's out there, but good afternoon, everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bradley. So just got a couple of very brief questions for you, Bradley. So can you tell us a little bit around how you found the Chartered Manager assessment process, and what advice would you have for your colleagues who haven't yet done it, who are thinking of doing it?
Yes, definitely. Well, I mean, I found the process fairly streamlined compared to similar accreditations within engineering. I mean, I'm sure a number of my colleagues who are tuned into this will, be able to appreciate that. Especially people who've gone through the incorporated engineer or chartered engineer accreditation through the ICE, for example. It's a very long, drawn-out process, which I think it puts a lot of people off, in fairness. But the application form, from what I remember, focused directly on determining my management credentials, and it enabled me to extract the interpersonal skills necessary to back up my application. The follow-up telephone interview wasn't undertaken in a formal manner as such, and it wasn't designed to make me slip up. Instead, the assessor discussed various aspects of my application in order to identify any gaps in the details I'd provided. The assessor amended my application accordingly, and I was informed that my application had been successful within a few days. So it was all rather, it was all done quite quickly. And all in all, I got the impression the CMI wanted to build my application to succeed and meet the necessary parameters for being a chartered manager. And as you sort of rightly pointed out, I wasn't actually, indeed the first Waterman Aspen member of staff to go through the process. So it was a bit of a guinea pig in many ways, but I have to say it wasn't too daunting.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bradley. That's great to hear. And you're a textbook case. So thank you very much for sharing that experience. It's great to hear that you found it so smooth and straightforward. Okay, so second question for you then. Did you learn anything about yourself as a manager and leader whilst you were going through the process?
Well, I was able to reflect upon what I'd achieved since undertaking the management roles at Waterman Aspen. I mean, in particular, I realised that managing people and expectations of people was fundamental to the ultimate success of any project. I also gained greater self-awareness of where my strengths and weaknesses lay.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's common feedback that we get around. It's the self-awareness building, as you've seen throughout what we've been through today. So yeah, it's a great exercise to go through, and hopefully you can take that forward and continue to reflect on what you do well and not so well moving forward even after you've become chartered, which is great. And then my final question for you, Bradley. So out of all of the wonderful CMI resources, which do you find most beneficial for you in your role?
I appreciate you sort of reminding me, Ian, about all the the wide variety of resources that are available. I mean, the one on stress management looks particularly enticing. I have to say, I might be going, having a good look at that one. But in general, I've tuned into many webinars organised by the CMI, particularly since COVID, and many of these were highly thought-provoking and relevant to life as it is today. I particularly found the webinar series on mental health and wellbeing very useful, especially as I manage several members of staff who've been working from home pretty much 100% over the last 15 months or so, which would no doubt have impacted on their well-being. So it did kind of give me a good insight into into that issue.
Yeah, fantastic. And with the events and webinars as CMI members, you all get a weekly kind of roundup from us in terms of newsletter of what's coming up. And as I said, you can access all of the back catalogue of these events if you want to drop into those and see for yourself. So no, that's fantastic, Bradley. Thank you very much for dropping in and sharing your wisdom with your colleagues. I really do appreciate it. So we'll wrap up today's session, folks, with our question and answer. And Mel's been feeding a few bits through as we've been going. If you do have any more, please do submit them. And I have got some pre-submitted ones as well, so we'll just start working through. So Mark asked, is there a reason why you would not add something to your CPD record? From my perspective, no. Add everything that you do. But I know some of our members are quite particular around what they want to add to their development record. So they may have specific needs or development areas that they want to focus on, and they want their CPD record to purely reflect those. Whereas others just like to put in everything that they access and that they do. You may find from time to time, you're dipping into bits and you're not fully reading it or you're not fully going through it. So when you're sifting through that list that I shared with you earlier, just pick the ones that you really want to add to your record. Or if, like me, you class everything as CPD, you just want to add them all, then please feel free to do that as well. Other questions that we've had, somebody's asked, is there a limit on how much of CMI's content I can access? No, is the answer to that one. So as a member, you've got full access to absolutely everything. You can have as many mentoring relationships as you want. You can access as many of the resources as often as you like while you maintain your membership of CMI. So you've got the highest level of access, no holds barred. You've got everything that you need and that you could ever want access to. Somebody else pre-submitted a question that asked around CPD requirements. So do I have to complete CPD to maintain my membership? So at CMI, we recommend all members, regardless of what level membership you hold, just complete CMI on a regular basis. We only audit our chartered managers because that's our kind of highest level within the profession. And once a quarter, we pick a sample and we go out and we do a CPD audit. Now, the majority of people have already got their information stored within Management Direct, which is fantastic, so it's nice and easy. But you're just reminded to make sure that's up to date and add anything else that you wanted to in order to go through. We do very much encourage that you do that because, again, part of being chartered is around your professionalism and your excellence and keeping yourself up to date moving forward. So, yeah, CPD is the key to future success. And then the final question that was pre-submitted was, do I have to hold a mentoring qualification to become a mentor with CMI? And the basic answer to that is no, you don't. So our mentoring program at CMI is relatively informal, which works really well for our member audiences. And particularly now, we're seeing a lot of reverse mentoring requests coming in. So senior leaders working with graduates, for example, and a graduate will not hold formal mentoring qualification necessarily, nor will people that work in management roles practicing as normal and want to share their experiences. So we act as very much as an introductor service. So we match people based on their interests and what they want to be mentored on and supported on. And then it's up to the two individuals to decide if that relationship is right and they want to move that forwards. So if that is something you're interested in pursuing, click on that purple mentoring button that you saw at the beginning, and you can get yourself set up with a profile and get connecting with other CMI members, which is great. So I think that brings us to the end of the questions, unless there are any more that are coming through. I'll just give a second for that. And just while we're just waiting for any last minute questions, in terms of a summary from today, I hope you've learned something about CMI and how you can access resources and what you actually have access to as part of it. And I hope you found that useful. This session has been recorded. And as part of the follow-up that we do with you, the email you receive, there will be a link to the recording. You should be able to access it from the same link that you joined the session with today. But if you wanted to share that with any colleagues that aren't here today, or you want to refer back to it, then please feel free. That will be there for you. But aside from that, again, I hope you did find that useful, and I will let you enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you again to Bradley for joining us, and for Mel for hosting, and for Linda for arranging the session. Wish you all a very good evening, and we'll speak again soon. Thank you very much.